This video might be a little over the top. So my ask of everybody, especially my longtime subscribers, is to maybe protect me from myself and let me know whether or not this is the type of content you'd be interested in. Let's calibrate together. You can say, "Hey, dude, you're sharing a little too much. Why don't you peel it back and talk more about Google Ads?" That said, I have a topic that I was inspired to write about on my Twitter thread, and now I'm shooting a video on it, which is one of the most important lessons I've ever learned as an entrepreneur is the ability to reframe. And I'll give you my journey towards learning that lesson, and then maybe some other examples that might be a little more sterile. I was raised by a blind single mother on Social Security disability in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I've probably said that sentence 100 million times because I was obsessed with that narrative. Me and my little brother were effectively welfare babies, and I loved telling people about it. I loved telling people how poor we were and how hard things were. And it was my identity. I was wrapped up in it, and it was wrapped around me, and I used it as a shield and a sword. And because I was a poor kid, there were just things I couldn't do, and it held me back in ways that I'll never even begin to articulate, probably in a bunch of ways I don't even understand still. It was my excuse. And I had this amazing opportunity that was thrust upon me. I was 19 years old, and I made friends with a gentleman who's my now business mentor of 20 years, and he and his wife took me to Egypt for a wedding. He had a friend who was getting married, and he said, "Hey, why don't you come with me?" I'd never traveled internationally. I'd barely traveled out of the Southwest. And all of a sudden, I find myself in Cairo, sitting at this little table outside of a bazaar, having amazing tea, but I'm surrounded by, while a beautiful country, Egypt doesn't have the strong social safety nets that the United States has for various reasons. This isn't an indictment on anybody. But, there are these little 5- and 6-year-old kids running up to us asking for money, and they're literally sleeping on the streets. And I realized right away, I'm not poor. Like, I never was poor. Maybe we were beans and rice or ramen family, but never went to bed hungry. Never slept outside. And it shattered my illusions immediately. It was such a blessing. Just to realize how lucky I was. And that was the reframe. Any one of those kids could have been and probably was smarter than me, more industrious than me, more capable than me. And they didn't have what I had. I had effectively a trust fund, right? Like, maybe not in the traditional sense, but the United States Social Security Administration was a trust, and an entire nation of people had, more or less voted on providing for me and my little brother and giving us the opportunity to have opportunities. And that was a massive reframe that led to so many. I couldn't have done anything that I've done since without first understanding that. And that's the funny thing about entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is a contradiction in terms. Entrepreneurship is about solving problems, but in order to do that, you have to perceive the opportunity within the problem. And for most of us, we're trained to see problems as problems, and rightfully so, by the way. That's how problems should be perceived by most people, but most people aren't entrepreneurs. And if you want to be a really good entrepreneur, every problem has to be an opportunity. First, every problem has to be an opportunity first before you can go and solve that problem. And before you can, build a business and grow and expand and make money and be successful. So learning to reframe might be the most important skill you can cultivate as an early stage entrepreneur. And I've got a couple of really specific examples that maybe aren't as sad or depressing as mine. The first one is Airbnb. The founders of Airbnb were having trouble paying their rent, which is, you want to talk about an amazing reframe. Here are a couple of guys who are like, we don't know where we're going to live. But you know what? Other people have this problem too. And I've been couch surfing for the last couple of weeks, and that's actually really helped, scratch that itch. I wonder if we don't build a website that lets people rent off the spare room or their spare couch. Like, what an amazing way to make lemonade out of lemons. Slack, same thing. In terms of the reframe, Slack was an internal communications tool built by a gaming company to keep their remote employees engaged. Here's what's funny. The gaming company failed. So imagine you're the owner of that company, Stuart Butterfield, and your company goes down in a ball of flames. Most of us would just sit there self-flagellating in a bathtub of gasoline, lighting matches, like, woe is me. But this cat was like, you know what? We sure do talk good. Like, wow, what an amazing reframe to take something out of the embers and the ashes and turn it into such a powerful tool that literally everybody uses. Not literally. I got to stop using that word so incorrectly. Instagram. Instagram was a pivot. Instagram started as a failing location-based social platform, never gained traction. And then Kevin, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce his name right, Kevin Systrom, turned it into a photo sharing platform. Perfect reframe. And I think that if you and I and the rest of the entrepreneurial world can begin to cultivate this ability, and you already have it, by the way, it's why you're an entrepreneur. You wouldn't be an entrepreneur without this ability being innate. But you want to find it, and you want to isolate it, and you want to build it like a muscle. Every setback is an opportunity. Every disadvantage is a potential strength to draw from. And if that sounds like hoorah horseshit, then I don't think you're paying attention, and I think you're wrong. Like, you really have to believe that. You have to integrate it on a cellular level. Get excited about challenges. Like, train yourself to get excited about problems. And if you can do that, you'll start to see the opportunity in literally every problem. And I'd love to know if you agree or disagree. You know what I'd really love to hear, especially because I was super vulnerable at the very beginning and I gave you more than I usually share. I'd love to hear yours. What are the reframes? What brought you here? What are the things that you thought were challenges but actually ended up proving to be massive, amazing opportunities? I'll add to mine, having grown up poor, right? Relatively poor. I'm amazing with money. I really value it. Not obsessively. Not, like in a Scrooge McDuck way. I don't have it all in a empty pool that I swim in. But there's just things that I don't need that a lot of my friends really seem to need. Or at a minimum, there are things that I can go without. And I don't know that I would have gotten this far had I not been really good at the game of money. And I've seen some people that early stages were making way more than me and were way more successful than I was, but they had a lifestyle threshold they had to maintain that kept them from being able to invest and reinvest and go without, and really set me ahead. And so, there's another reframe there. There was a problem that became an amazing source of strength. And I want to know what yours are, truly. You'd make me feel better about what's going on with this video. Hit me in the comments. Let me know what your reframes are. Let me know the struggles that turned into successes, into strengths. And if this video was helpful, like and subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow. I want to talk to you about money. Money's an uncomfortable topic for so many reasons and for so many people. Which is really frustrating, especially as a young entrepreneur, because nobody would ever talk to me about it. And if you're not raised with or in or around money, financial literacy is hard to pick up by osmosis. You have